Welcome to the Business as Mission podcast, dedicated to those who long to see God glorified in business and the nations reached for Christ. Your host is Mike Bayer, longtime BAM leader and founder of Third Path Initiative, an online education resource for starting and growing BAM businesses around the world.
Well, welcome to another episode of the Business as Mission podcast. I've got the joy of having an old friend back, Julie. We used to call her Julie Colombino. I'm now told that with her marriage, she is Julie Colombino-Billingham. And it is. We were teasing earlier about, well, I'll have to get a bigger screen because it's such a long hyphenated last name. But as she said it with a big smile, she's honored to have her husband's name. So she was Julie Colombino. She married Mr. Billingham, and they are really galloping around the globe seeking to follow the Lord. It's just a great story. Julie, welcome back.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike. It's so good to see you.
We were talking earlier before the show that the original podcast episode that Julie did with us was one of the most popular we've ever had. And so I'm really excited to have her back anyway. And then as I'm hearing what's transpired over the last couple of years between COVID and other developments in Haiti, boy, there's a lot to catch up on. So let's just jump right into it. For the sake of those who didn't hear the original episode, would you give us just a thumbnail of your journey to Haiti and how you got into Domain? And then we'll get into what's happened since then. It's for our listeners' sake, it'll be painful and inspiring. It'll be troubling and encouraging to hear what's going on in that part of the world. But there's a message in here for us. So, Julie, give us just a really quick summary. They can always go back, and I'll put this in the show notes. They can listen to the whole episode if they weren't listening at that time.
So basically, the story goes, in 2010, there was a terrible earthquake that destroyed Haiti, and I am a trained disaster responder. So it made sense that I would want to deploy. However, it wasn't just me wanting to deploy. It was a calling that I had to deploy. And typically as an emergency responder, you would spend a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months in a disaster zone. But my calling really was to create jobs in Haiti. I didn't know that in the beginning. That was kind of sprinkled throughout the first, few months in Haiti. But that was God's plan, was for us to create a fashion business, Domain. And, we are just really proudly employ Haitian people to create beautiful, high-end luxury, sustainable goods. And here we are, 13 years later, if you can believe it.
That's amazing. And let me just give a quick plug for Domain. I struggled with it last time. It is D-E-A-U-X. Oh,
so close. D-E-U-X.
See, I'm still struggling with it. D-E-U-X, first word, second word, M-A-I-N-S. And you can go to that website. Yes, and the reason I want to plug it is when Julie says luxury goods, this is not your typical third world handicraft business. This is beautiful stuff. And it's marketed online. It's marketed in some of the best stores in the world. So this is an amazing story. So Julie, you get down there, you're creating jobs, and it's going well. As you said, 13 years ago now. That's just so much of history. And then shortly after we spoke comes COVID. And so how did you handle COVID first? And I know there's another chapter here that I want to get to because it's even more amazing what's happening in Haiti today than COVID, which was the global disaster. But how did you guys approach it? How did you weather it?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. I mean, as you said, it was a global pandemic. And I have to say, I was quite proud of how Haiti handled the immediate response because, it's such a vulnerable island nation already. Very quickly, they shut the borders. And so within weeks, the entire borders were closed. Because we are a factory, we were allowed to stay open, but at 30% capacity. And so very quickly, my team, they're just so innovative and so amazing. They quickly got all the mask contracts from all the NGOs. And so we were creating masks. So we went from high-end luxury handbags to making masks for the hospitals in Haiti and some of the NGOs that were still operating. And so that's how we were able to keep working. And then because we are a Christian business, a social business, we fundraised because there's no there's no government support in a country like Haiti for people who were unable to work. So we fundraised on this side to be able to pay the 70% of staff who weren't allowed to come in during those 6 weeks so that nobody's income was negatively impacted.
I'm glad you clarified that, because that was going to be my next question. At 30% capacity, which was pretty normal during that time for a lot of countries to do that. What happened to the 70%? But it's a beautiful way that you were able to do the things necessary to keep paying them so that they could keep living. Because I know for others in Haiti, it was terrible.
It was terrible. I mean, even since that, so many of the businesses that we knew closed down. We've been so fortunate that we've been able to stay open. And it was not just because of the mass contracts, but it's also because right before this happened, we got investment. So I had been pitching for investment for a decade, essentially. And I have 3 Christian investors who made, a great investment right before COVID. Now, I mean, the irony of it, you can't even make it up. But, I got the investment in January, COVID essentially hit in February. And so our whole plan to attend trade shows and kind of grow got wiped off the table within minutes. And so we had to, like any other business that, survived it, had to quickly change.
Yeah. We've heard that story everywhere. A lot of companies, as you know, and certainly in the business mission space or the social business space, they failed. I know our organization, TriVenture, we created a relief fund to try to help to a certain degree. We were able to do some things, but some companies, a lot of companies, and most of them we probably have never heard of, just went away.
And that breaks my heart so much, because it is these businesses, it is this sort of infrastructure that is life-changing and sustainable. And when one person loses a job, I know in Haiti, the stat is 8 to 10 people are affected. And I think it's probably very similar in other places of poverty, because one job, helps so many family members, that it is truly devastating when these businesses shut down. And I think that's why it's even more important that we understand the power of our purchasing ability, like what we do as consumers. We're all consumers. And so what you buy directly affects other people. And I think COVID also helped enlighten that too. People really cared about where and how their things were made. So on that end, that's allowed us, to kind of stay open. And, we went to an online business like most others. And it was a really, really difficult challenge. Our sales dropped about 80%. We lost 100% of our wholesale partners and 100% of our corporate partners, because obviously nobody was doing anything or going anywhere. Because we small batch, we're smaller business, all of our boutiques, like you were saying, a lot of them didn't survive it. So, our sales just dropped so dramatically. I didn't know if we'd ever pull out of it. And, to be totally transparent, we're still climbing out of it. And the only reason I think we're still open is because of the investment and because of the perseverance of the Haitian spirit. That really is just the ethos behind our business, and I just think, the Lord does not want us to shut down yet, and hopefully never.
Well, clearly. If he did, you'd be shut already. But if somebody wanted to help in the near term in a non-investment, a giving sort of way, can they do that through the domain site, or is there another organization that, say, an American or somebody from Britain or wherever could put money? Because again, you're not back yet. Your sales are off, and there's another chapter of this story we're going to get to, which is really sad but exciting. I think, to see what God will do. But in this near term, there's obviously need. And we were talking earlier that the tragedy of Hurricane Ian in Florida has really eclipsed what was already a humanitarian crisis in Haiti, which it seems like to me, Haiti is always in some level of a humanitarian crisis. So go ahead.
It seems that way. It definitely seems that way. So I feel like I'm 400 years old right now.
It's just one long black story. But, still, the Haitian spirit is amazing. What they go through and how they bounce back. So that leaves 2 questions. First question is, obviously, how can people get money to you to help?
Okay, so the very, very best way is do all of your Christmas shopping on our site. Really, sales is everything, because it not only proves to our investors that people still care about buying things made with the sort of integrity that, our values stand behind, but also that people enjoy the products, and that is like kind of like the gift that keeps on giving, because then people, come back and forth. But if you feel called to give in a different way, we still have our charity partner, Rebuild Globally. Rebuild Globally has been providing education and job training for the past 13 years. And then there's the direct pipeline of jobs. So anybody that graduates the Rebuild Globally program works for DeMay. So it is, we've had 100% success rate. Some of our kids that started high school with us 10 years ago now are managers of the factory. Our HR manager came from that program. Our raw materials coordinator came from that program. Our executive administrative assistant came from that program. So
what a great story.
That is the coolest part, watching, which formerly used to be kids who are now like my bosses is probably the coolest part of the story. And they're really the leaders and the hero of the whole DeMay story. So hopefully someday they'll be on this podcast.
Let's get them on. We'd love to have them. So that's Rebuild Global?
Globally. Yep.
Globally.
Rebuild Globally.
.org?
Yep. .org. That's right. Yep.
That'll be in the show notes as well. I just want to clarify that. So again, anybody that wants to participate that way, I love your answer though. Hey, you really want to help us buy our product, which that way everybody wins, right? The buyer wins, the company wins, the people win. You made another comment that I want to roll back to, and it's something that just has become much more clearer to people around the world, I think, and that is the impact of a job. It's not, we're not just alleviating poverty, but we have to start with that. Somebody who can't eat with no roof over their head, it's very difficult to share the gospel with them. That's what we discovered in Kyrgyzstan when we were doing business there for the same reason. They were starving.
Right.
And the Spirit of God can do whatever he's going to do, but very often in the book of Acts, the apostles healed somebody first and then they preached the gospel, right? So, that's to me the method that you have to think about. But when you said one job that's lost has an impact on 5, 6, 7, 8 people,
8 to 10 in Haiti is what the UN says.
8 to 10. So think about that. And I want our listeners to remember that when we talk about job creation, each job brings so much goodness, so much blessing, and help to people who desperately need it. So there's that. And then you weave into that the tragedy of human trafficking that most people don't recognize as an economic problem. It is not, yes, it's a moral issue, but it's not a moral problem. It is an economic problem. And so in these countries like Haiti or Southeast Asia, not only there, certainly virtually every country, poverty drives human trafficking. And human slavery in the 21st century is like, oh my gosh, does anybody realize this? So again, those 8 to 10 people impacted could actually ripple out to impact maybe another 20 or 30 people. It's staggering to me.
I almost want to cry because it's like you are just so knowledgeable. And I'm just so glad that somebody like you has a podcast to, so that these messages of truth can really be shared with the world because, especially even in the fashion industry, we're the largest employers of women, it's like the third largest industry in the world. And, and like you said, it's so multifaceted. From hunger to education to human trafficking, it's all wrapped up into this economic bow. And if we can really help people, eliminate that barrier of poverty, we see so many things change in families. And that's really what this is about, right? Strengthening people so they can strengthen their families, so they can strengthen their communities, and, overall have a safer, more peaceful, beautiful world for everyone to enjoy.
Yeah.
And I do think that was kind of the point. And I think, that's why business as mission, like it is our mission, like that, like our mission is not just to create a happy home and a happy family. It can extend out so far.
Well, and that's it. And that, again, one of the reasons we do this podcast, we call it BAM stories, is, we want stories to get out there like yours. And they're powerful, they're inspiring. But part of it is just to say to people, you can do this too. You don't have to go to Haiti, but you can participate in business mission and the blessing that it brings to people all over the world. You can be a part of this, and that's the whole idea. Yeah,
I mean, as simply as a consumer, where you buy your goods, that is a ministry in itself. If you want to take it a step further, yeah, you can volunteer, you can start a business, you can do anything you want. You can work for a business like one of ours. There's so many options, but consumerism is a great way to dip your toe.
Good place to start because it's something we understand well.
We'll be right back after a short break. The Business as Mission podcast is in partnership with TriVenture, the BAM Launchpad. TriVenture offers the 3 ingredients every entrepreneur needs to launch and scale a BAM business: courses, coaching, and capital. For more information, visit triventure.com.
We were talking earlier, and you were telling me that just since the president of Haiti was assassinated last year, how things have changed there. And that alone was, I want you to tell that story, just what, with the whole collapse sort of society.
Sure.
and what it's devolved to. But then you recently have been impacted by that. So I'd like you to tell that story as well. And we'll be praying about it. And then we're going to end on a good note.
Okay.
We're going to end on a book that you've got coming out, and we're going to free publicity for your book. So
cool.
Tell us what's happened in Haiti, because it does obviously it affects the whole country. It certainly affects your business. So what's happened since the assassination?
Sure. So how I always like to talk about it is that essentially when the president was assassinated, it was like a coup d'etat, except some faction didn't come in to take over. There was essentially a void in government after the president was assassinated. And so the gangs of Haiti over the last 13 months have just risen in power. And as they have risen in power, they've just started taking over. So we have been actively working this entire time. And I was, sharing with you earlier, Mike, that, you could listen to the radio and the gang leaders would tell you which roads you could take to get to work, which roads not to take, which areas they were going to be in. So there was a lot of communication around how to stay safe. Now, we were always lucky because our factory is solar powered. The petrol crisis didn't affect us in the same way. Now, of course, people have to get to and from work. So it is a crisis. I mean, gas is at $30 a gallon right now. I mean, It's absolutely insane. People are really, really hurting. But some of the challenges that forced other businesses to close before ours didn't affect us. And then about 2 weeks ago, the leaders of the gangs have just said, no one goes to work. No one leaves their homes. And I always say I won't try to pretend to understand the politics and everything happening in Haiti as an American woman, but as a spokesperson for my Haitian colleagues and friends, it's really just, we don't know who will win in this, but we are hopeful for help, some boots on the ground for people to kind of stop the violence and the chaos the gangs are now bringing.
It sounds like a bad Hollywood B-grade movie.
Yeah.
Right? Escape from Los Angeles, so, a city ruled by gangs, and now you got. It's hard to imagine, but that's what you're describing is a totally lawless society, an absolutely dysfunctional government, and the people, the innocents, just I don't know if they're passively waiting. I mean, again, the Haitians endure. They're so strong. But how does something like this end? What do you think will happen?
We have gone through this before. I think from what I understand, like a lot of ways that Haitians have protested in the past were to, shut things down, shut the country down so that their voices could be heard. It was, especially where there's a high illiteracy rate, if you can't write your concerns or, tell somebody in a specific way, showing your anger through, you see a lot of burning tires in Haiti, you see a lot of barricades. It is a Haitian way to show your displeasure with something that's happening. And Haitians have been, we're slowly dying out there without a president, without a government, without formal elections. It is completely unjust and people are hurting. School was supposed to start last week. So the poor kids haven't even been able to start school this year again because of all the fighting. So the protests are not in vain. Their voices should be heard. What's happening out there is a huge crisis. And I really pray that it will be over soon. The other thing about Haiti is that things pass, so this, like I said, this has happened before, never for this long. to be totally honest. We've never been closed for 2 weeks like this. So I'm just, really hopeful that next week the gangs will just say, okay, everybody can go back to work, or something even better happens where someone comes in and, helps clean up this mess.
So what happens to your people during the time? I mean, I know they can't work. Are you back into, we're paying you anyway? That's who we are. Hang in there. I'm assuming that they're being taken care of, but you have no money coming in.
So we are so lucky. Another way that we protected our business, I think when you're doing business in a developing country, you have to put in certain parameters to protect your business. And one of the ones that we did was we opened a warehouse in the United States. So I actually have about 75 days worth of inventory here. So, and then the other thing you do when you're developing a business in another country or in a vulnerable place is you have a backup plan. So our backup plan is we have partners in the Dominican Republic. We have some of our team have visas. So when it's safe, we'll have them go to this is worst case scenario, they can go and we can produce some other way. But right now, so don't let it hinder you from buying it. Actually, the most important thing you can do right now is to continue to support Haitian business and the things that are still bringing income into Haiti. And this business does do that. So yeah, but so to answer your question, I'm hopeful that this will just resolve itself as things normally do in Haiti and we can go back to work per normal. But if not, we do have some backup plans.
Well, and my dog, Callie, who everybody on the podcast knows by now, she's saying amen to what you're saying. I do want to make a quick point, not to distract from the story, but for other BAM practitioners, you're the wisdom of saying we have backup plans. We have inventory in other safe places. We have, probably money in U.S. Bank. I mean, there's a way to think about protecting your business in a less than stable environment. So, Julie, let's switch to a fun topic. You're writing a book. You're telling me that it's almost finished.
Yes.
The goal is to publish by the end of the year. Tell us about the book, what the working title is, and when it's published, how people can get it.
Okay. Well, so we have been working on this book for definitely like a decade. It is called From Death to Dollars. And I know it's kind of a shocking name, but really what the title means to me, it's not about the death that happened on the day of the earthquake and all those lives that were lost, but it was more about the death of economic justice and opportunity and how dollars can actually change that. So this is about investing in infrastructure and business development. And so the book is really not just my journey of building the business from my perspective, but some of my Haitian colleagues, their perspective, some of the things that have happened to and for them since this happened. And it's been therapeutic to write for sure. I think, something I learned was when I did a TED Talk many, many moons ago, and that I was unable to speak about a lot of the things that had happened in the earlier days because they were rather traumatic and I wasn't even there. So you can only imagine the people who were there, the suffering that they've had. And I do have to tell you, there is something that we've done as a business that something I'm most proud of is we've about 6 months ago introduced Christian counseling to the team. And it is a partnership through the church in Haiti. And I think that, mental health is not something that is talked about in places of poverty, but who needs, health services more than people who have been affected by war and famine and trauma and earthquakes. So it's something that I'm most proud of for not just our business, but for our charity. It's like kind of a package that we offer to everybody that's involved in our ecosystem. And so from writing the book, from talking to my colleagues, from having us all having counseling, we've been able to, I think, heal too in a certain way. So when the book does finally get published, we'll definitely, and of course, all the proceeds will go to supporting the work in Haiti. I'm sure we'll have it available on our charity website, on Rebuild Globally, on Deme. Yeah, it'll be out there. Maybe Amazon.
That's beautiful. I love the introduction to Christian counseling because your point is right. I mean, in the U.S. we hear a lot about PTSD and we associate it primarily with, military, not totally, but usually with the military, and it's real and it's tragic.
Yeah.
But then you think about somebody whose entire life, from birth to grave, is in a almost constant traumatic zone. What does that do to their psyche? And to be able to bring skilled Christian counseling to the people that I love that. The pastor in me really likes.
We loved it so much. We feel so grateful for it. And, really, it was one of the young women on our team who really made us see she was in the middle. I mean, it's crazy, but when gangs do run your neighborhoods, I mean, things happen, guns fight, gun shooting and hearing all this stuff. And she was in the crossfire, thank God not hurt, but of a gunfight. And she was so traumatized. She helped us realize that this is not okay. We've got to find a way to provide some sort of support for our team members in Haiti. And so it was that was the catalyst to make us realize we must do this now. This is like a non-negotiable. And thank God the pastor in Haiti helped us find the counselor to provide the services.
That's fantastic. And are they Haitian counselors?
Yeah, it's a counselor. So it's, there's that, and that is, the other problem. There's not a lot of people with that kind of skill level that's still in the country, because if you could leave during this time, you left.
Yes. Yeah.
We are run by gangs, so we're just so grateful that she's still there. But yeah, we have one counselor for a staff of 50 and kids of 80. So it's not a ton, we do a lot of group counseling, not a ton of one-on-one, but it is there. And so, yeah, if there's more counselors, we need counselors. We need Asian counselors in Haiti.
Fantastic. And again, another way to take your career and your training and plug it into what God is doing around the world. It really blows our paradigms up when you hear this. And I know I'd be willing to bet that somebody listening to this podcast, that something's clicking inside, saying, I could do that. I could go down there for a year. I could move down. I mean, whatever. I think in the counseling arena, as well as other, lean manufacturing, process engineers. I mean, there are things that you don't have to be the entrepreneur. That's one of the drums I try to beat is you don't have to be you don't have to be Steve Jobs to go do this. You can be a person with a skill, with education, with background to make a difference. That it's needed.
Yeah, everybody and everything is needed. I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but I was a ballet dancer before. It's like, I don't know anything about, fashion and starting a business and running a factory and all these things, it's, it all just kind of happens. So anybody it's possible. It's possible to do anything for sure. We are lucky.
Yeah, I think the opening line of or maybe the show notes of your first episode were from ballerina to relief worker, entrepreneur, or something like that. And again, it just illustrates the story, Julie, that if God says do it, right?
Yeah, have to listen.
Do it. So
all we have to do is listen. Mm-hmm.
Gosh, it's so good to see you. It's so good to chat with you.
Honestly, I just am so grateful for you, because I can only imagine, I got to, spend an hour with you this morning, but I just think about all the different people that you talk to, and just thinking about the fact that your podcast people can listen whenever. And you have such a wonderful, well-rounded, knowledgeable perspective. I'm grateful for you.
Well, I appreciate that. Believe me, it's a blessing to me to be able to do this. So guys, this is Julie Colombino-Billingham, hyphenated name, but for all the right reasons. And she is with Domains. I'm going to say it right this time. DEUXMAINS.com.
Yeah.
And so go there, check it out. Check out, let me get this right here, rebuildglobally.org also to learn more what's going on. And I'll leave you with the commercial she gave us earlier. If you really want to help out right now, buy something from the company, because the money goes to the employees. That's the beauty of this. It's not just charity. It's business's mission. So what a great story, Julie. Just so good to see you. So good to chat. You're such a joy, and you share joy with others. And I appreciate that so much.
Oh, thank you so much. It's
October now. This will probably be out. We'll get it out before Christmas, so we can promote some buying, and I'll send you the link when it's available. So
that would be a wonderful gift to us. Thank you.
All right. Well, listen, blessings to you, your husband. I know you're traveling soon, so enjoy your trip. Enjoy all the places you'll go, and look forward to seeing your book when it comes out as well.
I will send you a copy as soon as it's out.
It has to be signed. Okay.
Naturally.
Thanks for listening to the Business as Mission podcast. We invite you to become part of the story by supporting the BAM podcast at patreon.com/BAM Stories. There's a link in the notes with this episode. For more information, go to thirdpathinitiative.com or tryventure.com. Please share this podcast and give us a review wherever you listen. If you'd like to help with expenses and expansion of the Business as Mission podcast, you can become a donor through Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/BAMStories. This podcast is brought to you by generous donors and sponsors. You can become one by going to patreon.com/BAMStories.